So this is one of the important slides, right? I did spend some time to build it, and I let's spend some time on it, at least 5 minutes, to understand about product management before we uh, get into the details of it, right? And please do keep asking questions, right? We will have some time at the end to take all the questions, and keep taking note of everything like you want to ask. You can also put it in questions column. We'll go through all of those one by one, right? So if I have to define product management in one line, it is art and science of building products, right? It is not purely science, it's not purely art, it's a combination of art and science, and that's what makes it interesting, right? And when you see this diagram, so if you go through internet, if you just go on Google and type product management, you'll get like 100 definitions, right? And this is one that I have carved out myself, and probably this should make sense. I've tried to break it into pieces so that everything as a whole is understandable, and you know what does a product manager do, right? So basically, a product manager has three important functions. A product manager needs to learn, a product manager needs to spec, a product manager needs to deliver, and this should keep going on in cycles. You need to learn continuously. You should be continuously specing the details out, and you should be delivering value to the end user, right? So what do you mean by learn? How do you learn, right? You have to do user interviews. The users who are actually using the product, you have to talk to them to understand what are their problems, what are their pain points, and that's what your product needs to solve for, right? You need to do a competitive analysis. It's a part of learning where you understand what are the other players in the market doing, right, who are solving for the same problem. First of all, if there is a player who is solving for the same problem, and if yes, what is their pricing, what are the features that they're giving. So that's all a part of learning. Then the quantitative part of it, you have to look at the numbers of your product, like how users are using your product, and take insights out of it and form hypothesis, right? So the entire learning process has only one goal, which is to come up with testable hypothesis, right? So let's say you are working for an e-commerce company like Flipkart and Amazon, and you are looking at the conversion funnel. So the number of people who come to the product page and the number of people who are doing payments is different. Like 100 people come on the product page and only 20 people do the payment. So what are the hypotheses that you have, that why 80 people are dropping, right? And that's where all these things will come into picture. You'll do user interviews to understand why are people dropping. You'll do a competitive analysis to understand how are other players have their funnel phased out. And you will also look at numbers to understand people are dropping. Are they from mobile? Are they from desktop? Are they from tablet? Right? Uh, are they using iOS? Are they using Android? Are they on mobile app or are they on web? All these kind of factors. So these all will help you in coming up with an hypothesis. And once you have a hypothesis in place, you need to start the spec process, right? So you have to work with design to optimize the user experience, right? That is really important, and that's where the entire design team comes into picture. You need to come up with an MVP, which is a minimum viable product, right? So the way to understand an MVP is you have come up with an hypothesis, right? What is the quickest way to test this hypothesis? Right? That is the MVP. You don't want to spend like 6 months or 1 year of an effort to just test an hypothesis. Sometimes that might be the only option, but most of the times it is not. And that's where you need to come up with a minimum viable product to test your hypothesis. During the process of specking, you also need to define the success criteria. It is a part of specs. And then we come to the delivery phase, right, where the actual delivery of the product and the end user value happens. Here, a product manager has various functions like feature prioritization, bug prioritization, which feature should go first, which bug should be fixed first, right? And all the learnings that you had in the learning phase will come handy here, where you use your learnings to prioritize a feature, to prioritize a bug. Apart from this, you also need to build a product roadmap. Like you cannot just work on an intuition basis, right? Like I have started this, and this feature is what I'll be building today, then tomorrow I'll build something else. You need to have a long-term view, right? You need to plan in quarters, like what will be the team doing for the next 3 months, next 6 months, next 1 year. That's where the product roadmap comes into picture, and that comes out of the learnings that you have. Finally, the go-to-market strategy and the value communication to users, right? So if you look across this entire spectrum, a product manager works with multiple teams, right? During the learn phase, you'll be working with the user research team, uh, the data analytics team, the business intelligence team. During the spec phase, you'll be working with the design team, you'll be working with the business team, you'll be working with the leadership, you'll be working with the analytics team again to for success criteria. During the delivery phase, you'll be working with engineering to prioritize feature, to execute them. You'll be working again with marketing to define the go-to-market strategy and communicate the value effectively to user. Right? So, product manager is a very horizontal and width role, right, where you get to interact with different departments of the business, and that's what makes it all exciting, right? And that's why I like it. So yeah, this was the introduction to product management. If you have any questions, feel free to drop it in that the question section. We'll take it in the end, and we will move now to the next section of the presentation. Right. So coming to the core topic, right, which was the focus for this entire webinar, that how has product management changed pre versus post COVID situation that we have, right? And for answering this or for analyzing this, I did some primary study, right? Some primary research. So what I did was I had floated a survey to all the people who are already into product management, and I was lucky enough to get close to 100 responses, right? So whatever data I'm presenting now is from the survey that I had floated. So this is from people who are working on the ground as product managers, right? And 100 is a good sample space. So I started with a question to in the survey that do you think that the way you build products has got updated because of COVID-19? And the response was yes by 55% of PM, right? That is a good big number. Means more than half of the firms have got affected and they have changed the way they build products. 60% of PMs reported that their day-to-day regular work also got updated. So the question here was like, have your day-to-day operation changed? And this is pretty much driven by the fact that most of the people are working from home, right? And remote working is much different than actual physical workstation. So 60% number here. And finally, the last question which I had asked was like, has the business model of the firm changed fundamentally because of this entire COVID situation? And that as well, 56% of people responded that yes, it has, right? So just to give you a bit more sense on the demographics, right? These are the product managers who are working mostly for Indian startups. Some of them are based out of Europe and US as well. But yeah, 80 to 90% are based out of India. So I have also structured my entire webinar around the Indian ecosystem, right? Because going global will be too much to cover in like this short span of time. So I've kept my focus on the problems that Indian consumers have, uh, the Indian startups, and how are Indian firms dealing with the entire COVID situation, right? So let's move forward. So what are the changes in the process of building products? So this was a follow-up question from the first question, which was like, has the process changed at all? And the answer to which was yes by 55%. So the next question was, what uh, what are the changes in the process of building products? So this is actual verbatim from the product managers, right, who have written it down. And I didn't change it much because I will pretty much contaminate it. And there will be some repetitions that you'll see here. That is because more people have written about it. So I thought I'll put it like that. And it just puts emphasis on the fact that the same problems or the same updates have happened across the board, right? So first response was, I'm pushed to think about building features related to COVID-19, right? So this is very specific to the situation. Like the leadership, the higher management is coming to the product managers and saying them that, okay, you have a roadmap in place, but can you also think of building something that will give us an advantage given this entire COVID situation is in place, right? So that is specific to this situation. Again, the second is prioritization done with COVID-19 and lockdown in mind, right? So let's say you had a roadmap planned which had certain features that had a lot of offline component to it. There was a logistic chain that was required, or probably an offline transaction was required. So those should get deprioritized, and something that was more online or remote should get prioritized in this. That's the drive, and that's the verbatim from our product managers. The turnaround time has come down, and there is ambiguity on budget. So as of now, there's a dearth of capital in the Indian startup ecospace, right? Like companies are not able to raise capital easily, so they are going as tight as possible on their pockets, and they want to churn out things quickly. So there is a lot of pressure on the product managers. There is a forced ownership due to remote working scenario. So here, I think it's specific to a one or two firms. I'm not sure it will be for everyone, but still, I put it here because it drives a point that as a PM, you are supposed to display ownership, right? That is one of the important criteria, right? And less user interaction due to other burning issues. So this is very, very important, right? We'll also cover it later when I'll touch on like what should a PM do in this situation. But to keep this in mind that user interaction is one of the most important things, right? And I will tell you the reason why. So let's say you had decided a roadmap which was like in January for the entire year, right? But after March, the environment, the business regulations, the government regulations, everything has changed drastically. If you're still going to drive that roadmap and the user problems have changed, you're not going to get anything out of it, right? So being as close to the user as possible is really of paramount importance, right? So this is some more verbatim from the next follow-up question, which was how has the regular day-to-day operation changed, right? If you see, there are some repetitions here, like more meetings has come out multiple times, and there are more meetings, and even I'm facing that in my current job. And the reason for that is in physical workplace, right? It's easier to just drop by your someone's desk and have a quick chat. That is not possible in a virtual setup. You need to set up a time, even if it's 15 minutes, and talk to them. So there are definitely more meetings. There is a lot of emphasis on communications, and that is really, really important when you're in a remote setup, because you cannot assume that people will know what they have to do. You need to be very clear with your communication. There is no physical interactions with users, right? So let's say you're a India-based startup. Like before this, I was with a company called InstaMojo, which was an India-based startup, and we had the users in India. So we had this golden opportunity of going out and interacting with the users. And nothing beats that. Trust me that if you want to build a product for a user, you need to spend some time with the users. Nothing comes close to that. Not even a remote phone call, web call, nothing. But now the situation is posed on you. You cannot have a physical user interaction. So there is no other option. You need to have a remote interaction with the user, right? How has the business model changed? This was the follow-up question on like, has the business model changed? And 55% had replied yes. So what has it changed to? Again, the repetition is there is a move from physical to virtual setup, which is more online than offline, right? This is across the board. Like everyone is focusing on that now. This was even before COVID, but now things have got accelerated, right? So it's good news for technology and technology product managers, if you look at it that way. Because if you want to move things from online, offline to online, you need to hire people who understand what online is, right? And that's where the opportunity for people like us is to step in and do the job, right? There is the introduction of free trials and increased trial periods. So this is mostly for edtech startups, right? If you have seen companies like Udemy, Baiju, these guys have started giving free trials because they understand that now is the right time to capture the market. People are remote, they are homebound, so they don't have an option to go to the school or a tuition center. They can log onto the system and take the classes there. If they acquire user now for like even a zero cost, they will stick to them, and eventually they can monetize the users, right? Another thing that has come up, which is also a kind of business model change, is like now because of getting into this forced situation where a company has to work remote, right? There are a lot of companies who are thinking like, why not go remote completely, right? Because it is cost effective, right? And it's a business model change. I'll tell you why. Because there are a lot of physical components to a business, right? Like there's a there is an expenditure that is assigned to a office space. There are office managers, there's food and everything. So if you're moving completely remote, you need to let go of all of that and probably some of the users. So that will change the way you function and the way you business, right? So this was the entire thing that I got from my primary study. Let me know if you have any questions on that. I already see some questions that have popped up, and okay, so I'll take one. Actually, I just saw it, like difference between a product and program manager, right? It is from Ishita. Okay. So I think in the previous slide we had, like, I'm working on both product and program management. This was from one of the product managers, right? So the reason for this comment, I'll first tell that and then come to the difference. The reason for this comment is, like, companies are strapped for cash, right? They cannot, they don't have the liberty to hire a product manager and a program manager and, like, have more people running the show. So one person has to do both the jobs. You have to be a product manager and the program manager as well. Now coming to the difference of between product and program manager, right? So first of all, let's get the terminologies out of our way. So product managers are called program managers in Microsoft. So you don't have to confuse. If you're a program manager in Microsoft, you're a product manager. As simple as that. But anywhere outside, a program manager is different from a product manager. A program manager is supposed to manage a particular project or program, right? Let's say there is a project which is uh, very engineering centric, right? Like, I need to upgrade from one versioning system to other versioning system, like from clear case to subversion. So that's a kind of program that one guy will lead and head into. So it's a pseudo project manager kind of role where you work closely with engineering, and it's more about engineering than any other thing. And product management is all about building products, right? As simple as that. It's a art and science of building products. You interact with users, you interact with leadership, you interact with marketing, you interact with design, you interact with engineering, and yeah, at the end of the day, you build products. So that's the difference in a nutshell. Okay, we'll take more questions as we move, but let's, in the interest of time, let's move forward, right? So this was the primary analysis that I completed, or sorry, primary study that I had done, primary research, right? Talking to the actual product managers and understanding what the impact is. Now I also did some secondary study, right, to understand how the firms are reacting to this particular situation, right? The COVID-19 situation. And this is specific to the Indian ecosystem. So I'm not talking about the global cues here, right? Just to keep the scope limited and have a meaningful discussion around it, right? So what is the impact on firms? So if you see, there are three rings which I formed. It's a structure to understand how the companies have been affected with it. First is the socially distant ring, right? So here are the companies who fall under the non-essential categories, right? And who are the worst hit? Like, let's say a travel, an apparel, right? All these are non-essentials. Nykaa, Myntra, are non-essential apparel categories. Urban Ladder, Pepperfry is a furniture brand, right? Ola, Uber, Huawei, mobile phone makers. These are into Ola and Uber are into mobility. Huawei and mobile phone makers are again handset brand. So the reason why these guys are affected the most is because once the lockdown is into place and jobs are scarce, you don't think about buying furniture, you don't think about buying apparel, right? And if you're staying inside, you don't travel. So that affects companies like Uber, Ola, Bounce, Vogo, Rapido, right? These guys are pretty much mobility driven. So they enable you to travel from one place to another, right? They are affected. Uh, the mobile retailers, because the shops are not opening, they're then Paytm Mall, the no broker. These are again offline heavy businesses who have got affected. Now let's get to the next level, which is the ring of chaos and opportunity, right? Here, the companies are, even today and a few weeks before in the lockdown, who are still operating, right? Here we have companies like Flipkart, Amazon, Swiggy, Zomato, Big Basket, right? If you see, Flipkart has both essential and non-essential categories. How they are surviving is they have switched to essential now, right? And they are still able to run the operations. Same with Amazon. Swiggy is a very interesting use case, and we will cover Swiggy in detail as we go forward. I've taken a case study on that, and we'll probably explore that much. Big Basket again falls under essential, so they're able to operate. Same thing with Ninja Cart and Grofers, right? Another important uh, uh, industry in the play is pharma industry, right? The medicine industry, and that's where MedLife, Practo, Portia come into picture. 1mg come into picture. These guys are still operating because medicine is an essential commodity, and these need to be shipped. Now coming to the innermost circle, which is the ring of magic, there are companies like MyGate and Easy Docs, right? These companies have actually turned the situation into a scenario which is really beneficial for them, and I'll tell you how, right? So MyGate and EasyDocs are working with the police department of some of the states to enable free movement of essential goods, right? So I'll tell you a bit about MyGate. MyGate is a company that makes this apartment softwares, right? So they will create a software, and that will be used by anyone who is coming to deliver something in the apartment. Let's say uh, a Flipkart guy, a Swiggy guy. They get a pass from their apartment gate, and they come and deliver the good, right? So coming back to MyGate, so MyGate enables basically delivery capabilities in an apartment. So they assign a pass to a particular person to deliver something. Now, what they have done is they have expanded their business to use this particular model for cities, right? Because now, for the movement of essential goods in a city, you need an authority to give passes, and that is our police force. But police force cannot do everything manually. They need a software solution for this, and that's where MyGate has come into picture. So, a very good example of how MyGate has changed their current existing product to open new opportunities for them. Right now, they're working with the government, and there's a lot of focus on that because they are enabling all the movement of essential goods across the state, right? So that's how you basically turn the entire situation favorably in your, uh, which is a situation which is favorable for you, right? Okay, coming to the next part of the second research that I did, which was more on the consumer behavior, right? How has the consumer behavior changed because of uh, the new normal of COVID-19, right? So the discretionary spending has gone down. This is credit card spend, and credit card spends are generally discretionary in nature, right? So this is numbers from NPCI, right, which is the National Payment Corporation of India, and the credit card spend has gone down by 25% in March and 60% in April. That is a pretty big slump, right? We have not seen such a slump in a long, long time. And most of this has to be attributed to shopping, traveling, eating out, uh, because people are not shopping. Traveling is out of the picture because there is a lockdown. Eating out is not happening because restaurants are closed, right? Now, there is a another data preset which I've put it down. It's pretty interesting. So this is the UPI data which PCI publishes every month, right? If you see from July 19 till April 2020, each month the number of banks has consistently increased. From 143, it has gone to 153 today, right? But if you see the volume and the amount from July till Feb, it has consistently increased. From July to August, August to September, October, it was growing because our economy was growing, right? From February to March, there is a 8% dip, so people are spending less. And from March to April, there is a 36% dip, right? It's a huge dip if you see. From 2 lakh crores, it has become to 1.5 lakh crores, which is a huge dip. That goes on to show that people are spending less, right? It's a very, very good directional data point to consider how the consumer behavior has changed. So moving to the next slide, and this is why I had asked the initial question, right? We have done a mini case study on Swiggy. How did Swiggy analyze this particular situation of the COVID-19, right? And came out of with a modified product altogether, right? A different business model. So, as most of you know about Swiggy, I'll not waste much time there. I'll just quickly tell that Swiggy is a company into food delivery, which was started in 2014. They have raised more than 200 million till now, and based out of Bangalore. They started with the Bangalore as a stronghold, but now they have expanded to pretty much the entire country, right? And they're valued over 1 billion, so they are a unicorn. So as of now, the entire food tech domain in India is dominated by Swiggy and Zomato, these two players. So what was the problem that Swiggy faced because of COVID-19? The problem was less than 40% of restaurants on Swiggy were delivering food across only 200 cities. In their peak, they were delivering at much more, like 300 to 400 cities, right? And they didn't knew what to do with their logistics assets. When I say assets, I'm talking about people, right? They had over 2 lakh 40,000 people employed. So what did they do? it's very interesting here, and I have put some screenshots which will also tell a story about it. So Swiggy rolled out essential supplies in 220 cities and Genie in 30 cities to harness its hyper logistics asset, right? So before going into this, let's understand one thing. So there is a concept of distribution, right? Distribution is really important. If you want to sell something, you need to reach to the end user, right? And that's the distribution channel, which actually connects you to the end user. And any product which has a really strong distribution can beat the product which does not have it. Even if the other product is just feature rich and has better capabilities, the product with distribution wins. And I'll give you an example. Probably if you back in time, like 5 years or 10 years, in 2010, there were a lot of people who were into digital cameras, right? High big cameras, Nikon, Canon. How many of them are still using that? Not many, right? And I'll tell you the reason for that. It's distribution. So there is a mobile phone that all of us have in our hands, right? And this mobile phone already has the distribution because it has reached the end user. And if the mobile phone has a camera which is as good as, or like almost good to do enough job like a digital camera, then the need for digital camera comes down, right? And that's how distribution of a particular product helps in beating a competition, right? Or a replacement of that. Now let's put that back into context here in terms of Swiggy. So what is Swiggy's strength? Swiggy's strength is distribution, right? They are present in more than 400 cities in the country, and they have people employed in that who are ready to do whatever Swiggy tells them to do. So how can Swiggy leverage this? The only way to leverage that in the current COVID situation is by getting into essentials, right? If you are able to deliver essentials like Flipkart, Amazon, Big Basket, right? Then you have a chance to use this. And that's what Swiggy did exactly. They rolled out the essential supplies in 220 cities. And Genie. So Genie is a product offering from Swiggy, which is exactly like Dunzo. It's a hyper-local offering where you can go to the app and tell someone to pick something from your place and deliver to some other place, right? In 30 cities. However, there are some problems to it, and we'll quickly touch upon that. One is like delivering food is a pretty simple business, right? You as a delivery executive, you go to a particular restaurant, you pick a packet, you take it to a place where you need to deliver it, you drop it there, and your job is done. It's not as simple for essentials because in essentials, we are talking about perishables like vegetables, right? You need to go, you need to understand how to pick good vegetables, you need to package them safely and then deliver it, make sure that you're not passing the COVID infection. All this requires training, and because of this particular challenge, Swiggy is virtually retraining and certifying more than 25,000 of its delivery executives now, which is pretty commendable. They have decided not to let them go, and they are being put to different and good use. So let's see how the Swiggy transformed from a food delivery app to a hyper local delivery app, right? The first screenshot which you see on the screen is from the 13th of April, right? That time, Swiggy was still focusing on the restaurant part. Like if you see the restaurant banner is on top and there is no contact delivery on top, but there is also Genie, grocery and meat categories added in the first scroll, which is a big deal for a mobile company like Swiggy, right? Anyone who comes to the, and there are millions of users who are coming to this page, they'll be able to see this grocery and meat. You go 1 week later, 18th of April, they have added one more category, which is pet care, right? Again, essential service. They're reducing the real estate for a restaurant. And finally, on 24, they have actually cut it into half. Restaurants, there is no focus now. They have put groceries as 50-50 for a restaurant. They have Genie, grocery, meat, and pet below, right? And they have also stopped the spend on restaurant because it does not make sense. The restaurant is not even open. Like, why will you even have it there? Right? So this was a case study of how Swiggy used this entire COVID situation, right, to change their way. They leverage their distribution, right, and they understood what was their strength and played accordingly, right. So very good example for how to leverage the situation to make it favorable for yourself. People who are already into product management, right? What are the tips and tricks to stay productive as a PM during lockdown? So this is from my personal experience as well as from people whom I've spoken to, and yeah, I've collected some tips for all of you, right? So keeping yourself aware of what is going around is of paramount importance, right? So I'll give you a very quick example. At Intuit, we are working with the US market, right? And recently, the US government came up with a Paycheck Protection Act by US government. That basically means that US government is ready to give you money so that you can pay your employees, but don't fire them. That was the part. But the government cannot do that themselves. They need someone like Intuit or QuickBooks to do that for them, right? And our team is doing that even as we speak. So that's a very good example of keeping aware and knowing what's going around. Another good example is MyGate, which we discussed, right? Like they knew that the police force will need some kind of pass solution where they are able to assign passes to a lot of people, right? And that's where they came into picture. So keeping yourself aware is really important, and this is just a part of it, right? So if you see, as of now, the lockdown has only started. There are problems like issuing passes and getting to essentials and all this. But as we progress in the curve of Corona and COVID, right, there will be other problems, right? One of them will be as soon as the vaccine is out, how can the vaccine reach to masses, right? If a cure is out, then how can a cure reach to masses? These kind of problems. Then let's say there are huge number of cases. So how can a product help hospitals regulate it better, right? The pharma solutions. So there are a lot of things that are going to come. It's for all the PMs, it's best to stay aware and understand what's going around. Prioritizing user research is of paramount importance, and we already discussed why, right? Because you cannot execute a roadmap which was uh, formed when the problems were very different as what they are now. Over communication is really important. I have already mentioned about it, but the single biggest problem about communication is the illusion that it has happened, right? This is a very famous saying, and keep in mind all the PMs, right? You need to communicate, over communicate. You have to probably send multiple emails, but keep at it because it's a remote situation and people might slip. There are a couple of tools that I have mentioned, right, for brainstorming in a remote setup. IdeaBoards is a very good tool. This is for virtual brainstorming, right? You can check. It's a free tool. Ideaboards.com. You can go and check. So what it does is it gives you a blank board where you can create ideas and vote among yourselves and prioritize them. Pretty useful. Then we have something called Coggle. So Coggle is a collaborative mind mapping tool, right? So I'm pretty sure you guys would have heard about a tool called Mind Map, which is an individual tool where you just go and create a map out of what you're thinking, right? This is the same thing, but more in collaborative format where multiple people who are thinking simultaneously can create a mind map, right? And that too in a remote location. Apart from this, there are tools like AirMeet, which we are using now, and we have Zoom, which allows you to break people into different rooms, brainstorm in a small group, and then come back and aggregate the learnings in a bigger group. So explore all that. We have a lot of tools in place, and actually we can discuss more about this offline. So what are the opportunities, right? I I was thinking a lot about making this slide, like what should I put, what should I put? But I thought I'll just put four bullets there. What are the most important things as of now to understand? One is we as existing product managers and probably startup entrepreneurs in India need to look at collaboration opportunities with government authorities. That's the most important thing as of now, right? The example is MyGate and Paycheck Protection Act in US, and it's only the tip of the iceberg. As I told, there are multiple problems that are going to come in terms of medicine availability, in terms of beds availability, in terms of the actual cure and vaccine availability, right? So we need to be on the lookout for opportunities of collaboration with the government, because it will also have the business side of it where you'll be able to reach out to more people, and ultimately when this entire thing is over, you will have some revenue to sustain yourself, right? It's time for testing bold hypothesis, right? So this is coming from an actual example. This is not something that I have made up, right? uh, I was talking to one user in US who uses QuickBooks, right? The product that I'm working for at Intuit, and they are an online dog training service. So can you imagine? Like this is like a really bold hypothesis, right? If you have ever worked with a dog trainer or been at a dog training institute or had a dog, you will understand that it's virtually impossible to train a dog online, right? And that's what these guys are set out to do. So it's a very bold hypothesis. But it is a time like this that we need to come up with bold hypotheses like this, because there is no other way you can sustain. Like let's say you're a dog trainer, but you're not allowed to go out. How will you sustain, right? So there will be solutions needed for the firms to enable the offline to online switch, right? And we need to keep a lookout on that. There will be multiple firms globally who will be moving or accelerating the movement from online to offline. So that is a potential opportunity. And pharma and gaming, these two sectors are really buzzing with opportunities. We need to make sure that you are on top of what are the opportunities in pharma and what are the opportunities in gaming sector. Pharma, I'll tell you why. Because pharma A is an essential uh, commodity. It is still being transported and it reaches the user, so it's not affected for this COVID-19 lockout. And second, because as soon as the vaccine comes out or the cure comes out, right, there will be a huge need to actually land it to people and produce it in large quantities, and that's where the pharma companies will come into picture. Gaming, and this is from the data that I got. I didn't add the data here, but there is empirical and numerical evidence that the gaming companies, both mobile and web gaming companies, are doing well in this current scenario. And the reason for that is now people are traveling less, right, and they have more disposable time, so they are playing more games, and that's why they are able to have more activity on their products. They are hiring more people, and yeah, they are looking to potentially open other revenue channels, right? So that concludes my presentation, and let's take some